Alright, in this lesson, I'm going to show you a simple and basic animation of a bouncing ball. I have already created a visual representation of the bouncing ball using shapes and effects inside the After Effects. You can download the After Effects file from the description below. Here, I have applied grid and gradient effects to the solid background layer. Next, I created a gradient circle, and on top of that, I created a simple and cute eye and mouth design, which I named a face. That's it. Let's quickly start the animation. I'm going to animate for 1 second, so let's end the work area here. Before jumping into the animation, always check the frame rate. I'm going to use 24 FPS for this animation. When I move the gradient circle, the face doesn't move with it. Therefore, let's parent and link the face layer to the gradient circle layer. The face layer is now aligned with the gradient circle. Let's lock down the background layer. Instead of using a gradient circle, I'm going to create a null object layer as a controller. Let's create a null layer and parent the gradient circle layer to the null layer. Now, we can use the null layer properties to animate the circle. First, we have to place the null layer anchor point at the bottom of the circle, right here. Only then will we be able to create a squash and stretch action. Since the bottom of the circle is going to bump against the ground, we can't create a perfect squash and stretch. I position the anchor point at the bottom of the circle to create a perfect squash and stretch effect. Let's click the selection tool and lock the face and gradient layers. Let's start the animation. Select the null layer and press P to open the position properties. In the first frame, create a keyframe. Let's proceed to the 12th frame and adjust the Y position downward until it approaches or touches the bottom composition. Now go to the end of the second, copy the first keyframe and paste it here in order to bounce back to the same position. Let's select the keyframes, press F9 to apply Easy Ease, and then open the graph editor. Select the first keyframe point and drag the speed handlebar completely to the right side. Additionally, select the final keyframe and drag it completely to the left. I created a graph like this to move the circle slowly, gradually increasing to a high speed and then starting at a high speed, gradually decreasing to a slower speed. Let's go to the timeline and see the outcome. It's coming along nicely, but the bouncing feel isn't present at all, correct? In order to create the anticipation, let's select the null layer and press S to open the scale properties, then create a keyframe in the first frame. Let's go to the 12th frame, then click here to disable the chain icon in order to control the X and Y dimensions individually. I'm going to squash the Y dimension like this. Let's make it 60 and then stretch the X dimension like this, making it 120. As you can see, the stretching and squashing begin before the circle touches the ground. Let's move 3 frames backwards from the 12th frame and change the scale value to 100 for both dimensions. Later, we can change the value as needed. So from the start, the circle ball is in the same shape. Let's increase the Y dimension to 120 and the X dimension to 60 to illustrate the speed at which the ball descends. You can see that the circle stretches as it descends and squashes and stretches when it hits the floor. Now, let's move forward 3 frames from here, copy the previous keyframe and then paste it here. Next, proceed to the end of the frame, copy the first keyframe and paste it here. As the circle goes back to the same position, it changes shape to become a perfect circle. However, the squash and stretch effects were present earlier. That's because we have applied Easy Ease for position properties, but not for scale properties. Let's select the scale keyframes and press F9 to apply Easy Ease. Now that we have selected the keyframes, let's navigate to the graph editor and adjust the graph speed from slower to faster, just as we did with the position properties. ensure that you have structured your graph in this manner. Let's look at the frames one by one and see the changes happening. As you can see, the squash and stretch occurred before the circle contacted the floor. It can only happen after the circle touches the floor. Let's place the timeline indicator right here and bring the Y position downward to touch the floor like this. Similarly, let's move the timeline indicator down to this position. Let's play and see the outcome. The outcome is perfect, with a smooth bouncing ball effect. However, when the ball collides with the floor, the abrupt squashing and stretching will not be visible. So, let's select these keyframes and move them one frame forward and backward in order to increase the speed. Now we have created a perfect bouncing ball effect with the smiley gradient circle. I hope you enjoyed learning this animation.
Hey, I'm excited to announce that we are launching a character animation course, perfect for beginners to intermediate learners. This comprehensive course will guide you through the entire character animation process step by step. I will start with how to structuring design layer for animation, then move on to creating character rigs and learning how to animate a character's walk cycle. We will create flexible skeleton for our characters, allowing them to move, grow and express themselves. By the end of this course, you will know how to composite both characters into a scene where a boy takes a walk with his dog. This course will equip you with all the skills needed to animate any characters. Sign up today and join us in the main lesson. See you there.